Okay, let's travel back in time. We're talking almost 2,000 years ago, right into the heart of the Roman Empire, to one of its most incredible cities, Ephesus. We're going to dig into the story of this ancient metropolis and its relationship with one of Rome's most interesting emperors. And believe me, it's a story told through spectacular monuments that you can still see today. So let's get into it. So, if you were to walk down the main drag in ancient Ephesus, this magnificent road called Curides Street, you would see this. This is the Temple of Hadrian. It's not huge, but wow, is it detailed. People often say it's one of the most beautiful things in the whole city, and you can totally see why. Even after all this time, it's just a stunning piece of architecture. But that makes you wonder, right? Ephesus was a major center of Greek culture, a beacon of Greek identity. So why on earth would they build such a beautiful, prominent temple for a Roman emperor? Well, the answer to that question tells us a whole lot about power, prestige, and politics in the ancient world. To really get why this temple is here, you've got to understand the city itself. And let me be clear, Ephesus wasn't just some random town. It was an absolute superstar of the Roman Empire, a real A-lister. I mean, just look at its resume. Ephesus was the capital of the entire Roman province of Asia. That's a huge deal. It was also a free city, which gave it all these special legal perks. And it held the title of Neokoros, or Temple Warden, which was a massive religious honor. All of this was possible because it was, at its core, a hugely important Mediterranean port. And what did all those fancy titles get them? Well, a whole lot of money. Ephesus was an economic powerhouse. Its harbor was just buzzing with trade from all over the known world. The banks there, especially the one at the famous Temple of Artemis, were handling incredible amounts of cash. Plus, you had pilgrims and tourists flocking in. It was easily one of the biggest and richest cities in the whole empire. All right, so that's our city. Now let's meet the other key player in this whole story, the emperor himself, Hadrian. Now, Hadrian was a totally different kind of emperor from the guy before him, Trajan. Trajan was the conqueror, the warrior who pushed the empire's borders out as far as they would go. Hadrian, he took a look at the map and basically said, okay, this is big enough. He was all about consolidating and strengthening what they already had. And his main way of doing that, he actually went to go see it all for himself. And there was one part of the empire he was really, really into, the Greek East. Here's a word you need to know for Hadrian, Philhellenian. It means a lover of all things Greek. He was obsessed with Greek culture, art, philosophy, you name it. And this wasn't just some personal hobby, it was a political strategy. He wanted to connect the powerful Greek world to Rome through culture, not just by force. Just get a load of this number. In his 21 years as emperor, Hadrian spent more than 10 of them outside of Italy. That's over half his reign. He was constantly on the move, which is how he earned the nickname the traveling emperor. Nobody had ever engaged with the provinces on that level before. So what happens when this superstar city meets the traveling emperor? You guessed it, the imperial visits to Ephesus were absolutely monumental events. And here's the thing, Hadrian didn't just pop in once. He came to Ephesus at least 3 different times. The first time, around 120 CE, was part of a big tour. By his second visit 4 years later, his reputation as a Philhellene was well known, and you better believe the city rolled out the red carpet. But the third visit in 129 CE, that was the big one. He showed up with his entire imperial court. The Ephesians went into absolute overdrive to impress him. I mean, just try to imagine it. Massive festivals, huge public ceremonies, new buildings being finished just in time for his arrival. This was not just some party. This was a calculated, strategic investment to get on the emperor's good side and get all the perks that came with it. And we even have proof of how personal this visit was. Archaeologists digging in the famous terrace houses, these are like the super fancy mansions of the city's richest people, found evidence that one of them was specially modified. The theory? It was likely done up to be the emperor's personal residence. So he wasn't just some distant ruler, he was literally a house guest in their neighborhood. So this intense relationship between the emperor and the city, it wasn't just a fleeting moment. It left a permanent mark on the city's landscape, a legacy literally carved in stone that, lucky for us, we can still see today. It sparked this massive building boom. Of course, you had the famous Temple of Hadrian that we started with, but there was also something called the Olympion, which was this colossal temple where Hadrian was actually worshipped as a god. They built a ceremonial arch, Hadrian's Gate, just to commemorate his visits. And on top of all that, imperial money started flowing in to help fix up older buildings that had been damaged by earthquakes. And this is really the key takeaway here. This wasn't just Ephesus trying to flatter the emperor. It was a two-way street, a mutually beneficial relationship. For Ephesus, honoring Hadrian meant getting more prestige, tax breaks, imperial cash, and another one of those coveted neocrat titles. And for Hadrian, having a loyal and thriving Ephesus meant a stable eastern province, a chance to show off his cultural patronage, and a brilliant use of what we now call soft power to secure his rule. And that brings us right back to where we started. Looking at this temple, it's so much more than just a pretty building. It's a physical symbol of that whole complex stance. It stands for Ephesus's ambition to be the #1 city in Asia, and for Hadrian's brilliant strategy to rule a massive empire, not just with swords, but with culture and favor. Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. When you look at this whole relationship, the grand welcomes, the fancy temples, the flow of money, was it really a partnership between a city and its emperor? Or was it just one of the most masterful and effective displays of soft power the ancient world had ever seen? The real answer, I think, is probably somewhere in the stone itself.